Kristen Honey.
That's right. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alec. My reason for being here tonight and takeaway message is this. 100% recovery from late-stage Lyme disease is possible. You, too, can heal beyond labels. Lyme does not necessarily have to be a chronic illness life sentence. And if we band together our collective wisdom and experiences, we together can cure Lyme by 2020. Let me share how. During this talk in the next 15 minutes, 10 Americans will be diagnosed with Lyme disease. One new case in the US every minute and a half. This is not just a US problem, it is a global problem, and the world is looking to the United States for solutions. In the US alone, Lyme disease costs 1.3 to 3 billion annually in direct medical costs. When economists do a full cost of analysis on this illness, taking into effect the latest science, we will find likely that this is a $1 trillion problem with a T. That includes the new CDC, not so new anymore, 4 years ago, revised estimates that 300,000 Americans every year are infected by Lyme disease. That's more than HIV and breast cancer combined. Now, despite this size, this massive scale of the problem, Lyme disease remains a neglected disease. In terms of federal research dollars and investment, if we were to scale it and we Lyme people were a small minnow barely over an inch, other diseases would be the size of a blue whale per person in annual investments. Some people get frustrated at this. I see opportunity and hope, because when the United States and humanity put their resources and their attention to a disease, we come up with solutions and we find a way to contain and cure it. One tick bite can change your life, not just your life, the life of your child, and it affects everyone. For me, this happened in 1999 in Maine. I was bitten by ticks and classic Lyme in every single way, except I did not get the bullseye rash, and now we know not everybody gets the bullseye rash. Came down with the summer flu, didn't think much of it. About 6 months later, completely collapsed. The doctors thought it was mononucleosis. It was not mono. I failed 3 different mono tests, each one getting more and more sensitive. Missed over a month of work. My mom had to take care of me. She was trained as a nurse, otherwise I probably would have been in a hospital. And I remember after the third failed mono test came back, she said to the doctors, what if you're wrong? What if this isn't viral, but it's actually bacterial? And even if you're right, and this started out as a viral infection, she's been so sick for a month, there are probably secondary bacterial infections. Put her on a broad spectrum antibiotic, see if it helps. 2 courses of Cipro later, my medical chart said bacterial infection, cause unknown, and the doctors noted how rare that was for someone of my health and my age of 25. These pictures are taken from 2009, 2010, when I was 35 and 36 years old. About a decade later, into the outside world, looked great, was living it up, but behind closed doors was another reality. For 10 years, my health eroded little by little. Again, these pictures are from the same era, 2009, 2010, about a decade later. And during that decade, I was still able to work full-time. I was still able to keep up the facade of success. I finished a master's degree in 2005, was accepted into a Stanford prestigious PhD program in biology and interdisciplinary sciences. People thought I was thriving and high functioning, but I was behind closed doors, hiding symptoms worse and worse. I was lucky in the sense that one of my visible symptoms happened to be acne. So the doctors put me on minocycline, which is in the same family as doxycycline, often used to treat Lyme disease. I was on minocycline 200 milligrams a day for 6 years. That's a long time to be on antibiotics. When more and more research was coming out on the importance of probiotic health, gut health for overall human health, my doctors and I thought maybe I should try to manage my acne with more holistic approaches, better diet, less stress. So I went off antibiotics, and about 30 days after getting all antibiotics, completely tanked. Couldn't get out of bed, so fatigued, Parkinson's-like shakes, voices in my head. It was beyond scary. I had no idea what was happening to me. It wasn't just getting off antibiotics. I was a perfect storm of several things around the same time, the perfect example of what not to do for Lyme healing. I was towards the end of my PhD, set to defend in that year, so work stress was high. I had gone through an unexpected and traumatic breakup. I had moved multiple times, and in June 2009, the age of 35, where many of these pictures were taken, I moved into a cute little quaint cottage in Monterey, California that had a mold problem. The combination of Lyme and mold with the life stressors, I was utterly debilitated in weeks. My disease still didn't have a name, and it took about 6 months to figure it out. When I finally did have a diagnosis, I had trouble getting treated at one of the world's best hospitals. I was a Stanford PhD student going to Stanford Hospital and basically told they didn't treat chronic Lyme. I went from my primary care doctor to mental health counselors, Stanford infectious disease, Stanford rheumatology, only to be told, stop working so hard and start taking Lexapro. Now, because of the work of this group here, Bay Area Lyme Foundation, and the bottom-up efforts at Stanford University, that is not the reality today. 8 years has been a huge change. They've done amazing research. There are clinicians who treat late-stage Lyme, and it's a very different reality. But back then, I fell between the cracks. When I was lamenting to one of my PhD mentors about this, the late, great Stephen Schneider, he said, you should get my book, The Patient from Hell. And I said, okay, I will. And with my Lyme brain, instead of buying one copy, I must have hit the one key twice and bought 11 copies. So 11 copies of The Patient from Hell showed up at my door. What does one do with 11 copies of The Patient from Hell? I decided that I would give them out to my medical team as I was looking for the right practitioners to treat me. The premise of this book is that 1, no doctor has all the answers, and 2, there are no answers, only odds. And the job of us as patients is to stack the odds in our favor, whatever it takes. Body, mind, spirit, you do whatever you have to. Take the latest information, and you are an active participant in your own healing to customize it to your exact needs and situation. This book, for me, was precision medicine before the buzzword of precision medicine for customized care. Eventually, I found my way to a motley crew of practitioners outside the Stanford network, and they helped me heal, some of whom are here tonight. Thank you. And one thing I observed through this healing process, when you get diagnosed with a complex, invisible illness like Lyme disease, where one day you can be fine, overdo it, and then tank for days after, and you look fine, even if you're in so much pain on the inside, I realized that you had to deal with this disease and go through almost a grief process and deal with not just the body, but the mind and the spirit. And when I think of that, I think of the mind, my relationship with myself, the people around me, the spirit, my relationship and role in this universe. And when I worked on that, my healing seemed to make bigger strides. So it kind of flipped my worldview around as a Stanford-trained biologist and engineer. I mean, I was trained as a linear, turn this and get this outcome, and Lyme was not that for me, and I had to test this disease on every level and go through the grief process, because when your life changes, you have to reevaluate. Your finances are destroyed, your relationships have crumbled, careers are derailed, and then hopes and dreams of someday becoming a mom, having my own kids, that faded away as the disease took years of my life. Moving through the grief process, I finally, the universe, was tested. Whether or not working on the body or the mind and the spirit levels had a bigger bang for the impact than just working on the physical body. And on November 6, 2010, my family advocate, the only one in the family who believed I was really sick, my champion for health all those years, my mom, took her own life by suicide. At the time, I was bedridden, living with my parents, absolutely dependent on them, and 1 year into a 2-year treatment plan. So all my normal coping mechanisms of going for a run to alleviate stress, going to a yoga class, even doing yoga at home. I was too fatigued. Having a conversation with a girlfriend. I couldn't do it. The migraines were so bad. Light sensitivity, sound sensitivity. My short-term memory was so poor, I'd forget what we said 3 minutes earlier. So having a conversation with someone just became a stressor rather than a stress reliever. So I had to learn a whole new set of tools of how to heal myself by going within, because I was literally bedridden and that was all I could do. With the help of a counselor and an amazing support network of friends who I now call family by choice, this mantra came to me. Rest, breathe, sleep, pray, accept, surrender, heal. For this first 6 months after Mom's death, all I could do was the first line over and over and over again. That was all I was physically capable of. Eventually, I graduated to accept and surrender, and finally heal. It was not an easy journey, and one aspect of it that really helped me, took it to another level, was forgiveness. And after Mom's death, everyone in our family grieved in our own way. Trauma can shatter relationships, add stress to anything. So with my primary caregiver and advocate gone, the rest of the family decided that I was crazy. My brother told me I was the biggest narcissist he ever met. My dad told me that I had what Mom had, and that I was a toxic one, and the family was letting me go. Without the support of family, I ended up being one friend away from homelessness. I was too sick to work, so I went on food stamps. I had to go on Main Care, which is subsidized health care for the disabled, and I was too ill to even fill out the forms or understand what they meant, so friends helped me with it. And during this process, someone gave me a book called Dare to Forgive, and I read it. And I remember putting it down and thinking, it's easier for me to forgive my mother for taking her own life, because for 26 years that I could remember, she was a closet alcoholic, struggled with mental illness that was never addressed. It was in so much pain. The first words out of my mouth when I found out were, she's no longer suffering. But how do you forgive your dad, your brother, all your relatives, and people who you think you would be there for, who just walk away? And for me, this forgiveness, I had no idea how, but I set my intention, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna choose to forgive. And almost instantly, I felt better. Like I could get out of bed and go grocery shopping without tanking. And I thought that was really strange to have that immediate feedback. And then something in the family would set me off and I'd be like, screw them. I can't stand my family. I have every right to be mad. I'd never do that. And I would tank and I'd be bedridden again. And then I would choose to forgive and I would notice better energy. And it was this weird game that I played with myself for a few weeks before I finally decided I'm gonna stay on this side of forgiveness. And now I understand why people say forgiveness is a gift you give yourself and has nothing to do with the other person. You are not condoning their behavior, you're definitely not forgetting it, but you're choosing to let go of the negative emotions, the pain, the hurt that goes along with those memories. With this process, in the end, Lyme disease was almost like a phoenix process. I know many people have heard this, but you let go of the relationships that no longer serve you. You get stripped down to the studs and you have nothing left. If you can't work, if your degrees don't matter, who are you really? You find that out. Then as you get your health, you get to layer on those pieces and those relationships of you that you choose to bring back in, sometimes on different terms, often healthier terms. So I brought relationships back in, and amazingly, I have a wonderful relationship with my dad and many family members now. We all had to grieve in our different ways in different time. And by healing myself, the rest of the family eventually wanted to learn about Lyme disease. Now my dad, my stepmom, and others are my biggest advocates and biggest cheers, and they have donated a week of the Honey Cottage for the auction tonight. Now, that's not the full story, my full story. I'm not telling you about what I call my linchpin. My linchpin was intravenous nanominerals, nano silver, nano gold, and trace minerals you can call oligotherapy. Nano simply means small sizes, like physically 100 nanometers or less. And as you get particle sizes smaller, their reactivity, their properties change. So maybe they can treat diseases differently. We are in a whole new frontier of medicine with the nanoscale. Oligotherapy is just a fancy way of healing through trace minerals. The science on this has been around for a long time, and much of the literature is better developed in veterinary science, veterinary medicine than human medicine, but it made sense to me because I was chronically depleted in minerals. So I was lucky enough to have an amazing scientific network and decided to use myself as a bit of a guinea pig and try an experiment, which was grounded in peer-reviewed literature. I brought this solution around to some of the world's best microbiologists, experts in biofilms, and I said, here's what's in it, can it help me? And they said, well, we don't think it's gonna do anything for you, but it's not gonna kill you. So that gave me the confidence to try it. So I brought it to my doctors and they said, heck no, we are not treating you. So I ended up watching YouTube videos and teaching myself to IV. Yeah, it is crazy that patients have to get to that level of desperation. And before I shot up the first time, my mom was with me. And I looked her dead in the eye and I said, Mom, I know I could die doing this, but it's a risk worth taking because I would rather die trying to heal from Lyme disease than live a lifetime of pain and poor quality life that I had then. So then I shot up and I promptly fainted. Don't try this at home. But I persevered and I got better. And I am standing here today to tell you a cure is possible. Absolutely possible. I stopped treatment in September 2012. 5 years ago, I have not relapsed, and I think of it as a functional cure taken from HIV and AIDS. What is a functional cure? The doctors can no longer detect the disease in a patient who previously had it. The patient discontinues treatment and does not relapse, and the patient does not report symptoms. We can absolutely do this. I'm not saying what I did will work for all of you. It probably will not because we each have different strains of Lyme, different co-infections, unique genetics, all that. Medicine and treatment has to be customized to the individual, especially for something as complex as Lyme disease, but it is possible and we should set our aims high. One part of doing that, let's stop calling it chronic Lyme. Chronic Lyme insinuates that we are gonna be sick forever, and that is not the case. Switch it to anything else. Late stage Lyme, post-treatment Lyme disease syndrome, we can have a contest to come up with a new name, but we're doing our disservice by calling it chronic. And then, there is huge hope on the horizon thanks to Bay Area Lyme Foundation and everyone in this room here today. Now, you don't get out of the challenges that I faced and not have it touch your soul. And I am not going to quit doing this. It is my time to pay it forward, and I'm not going to quit until everyone has found their functional cure. With Bay Area Lyme, last year, we launched a 2016 Lyme Innovation Initiative with public-private partnerships to springboard the pace of research on Lyme disease. It involved a series of events, hackathons, data jams to connect diverse people and create interdisciplinary teams to solve real-world Lyme challenges. Prizes were awarded, and Dr. Yuko Nakajima, who got the award tonight, was one of those winning teams. This is a pipeline for next-generation solutions. And thanks to Bay Area Lyme Foundation and people here, we are doubling down and going big on Lyme innovation in 2017. There's going to be a whole series of events coming up and bigger than you've ever seen before. We are working to co-create a Lyme moonshot through public-private partnerships. We find this cure together by pooling and opening all of our information. No more like hoarding patents or hiding behind bureaucracy and stuff. Let's share the info and come up with like rowing in the same direction. We also recognize that genius comes from unexpected places. So every discipline is welcome, whether you're the MD in the white coat or you're a passionate patient trying to save your child's life, passionate parent trying to save your child's life. Now, if you're too sick to physically join us for Lyme Innovation 2017, you are still a part. Heal yourself first, lead by example, put on your own oxygen mask, and by healing yourself, you will be joining this bottom-up coalition to cure Lyme by 2020. With open-minded creativity, coupled with a culture of sharing information across institutions, we will revolutionize chronic illnesses and how they're managed in the US, beginning with Lyme disease. This Lyme community here, including all of us virtually connected, which is gonna bring our numbers to the millions, is at the forefront of this Lyme moonshot. We are all committed to putting people and purpose before papers and patents. Open data, open science, open innovation, open source intellectual property. Harnessing our collective power, together we can and we will cure Lyme by 2020.